Hi, my name is Scott Nance with Chicago Adapt Productions. I'm here with Elliott Marks from the Family Resource Center on Disabilities, and we're here to talk about a little bit about what his organization does. In 1976, the Family Resource Center on Disabilities became one of the 5 pilot programs to operate a parent center funded by the U.S. Department of Education and the Office of Special Education Programs. Today, there are more than 100 federally funded parent centers throughout the United States. During its 40-year existence, the Family Resource Center on Disabilities has answered more than 200,000 requests for information, training, and support services. Would you like to tell us a little bit about what it is the Family Resource Center does, please?
Well, yeah, generally we answer all questions that parents or professionals may have. We do training in our offices every Saturday morning, as well as the first Tuesday of the month, and we have Spanish trainings available on the second Wednesday of the month. And basically, we give parents information on their rights and their children's rights who have disabilities in the public schools.
How does a parent get help for their child?
Well, the first thing with the process is a parent must make a written request. And this is because if you don't put it in writing, the school oftentimes will take your request and then put you off. They'll put off the how long it takes. And by law, they have 60 school days to evaluate your child and see if they do, in fact, have a condition that renders them available for special education. So, you know, when you have it in writing, you have the 60 school days, and that's the time period they must get back to you and tell you if your child does have a need and will be given services.
So once they receive services, is there a difference between an IEP plan and a 504 plan, and what are those differences?
Yes, the IEP plan, actually Individualized Education Plan, comes from the IDEA, the Individuals with Disability Education Act. It's an educational law. And that plan can go into a lot of detail about what a student may need. If they need special teaching, if they need other circumstances like special help with the equipment they use, you know, any kind of specialty program. But the 504 plan comes under the auspices of the ADA, and that plan is a little bit different. It doesn't give you as much leeway. It may make certain modifications or accommodations for a student and help them with assistive technology and things, but it really doesn't go into the area of special education teaching per se.
It sounds like a lot for a parent to know all of this jargon.
It is,
and
yeah,
breaking
and
that down.
It's very detailed, and that's why we're there to help parents and help answer questions when their child has a problem in the schools.
If a parent has a child who requires an individual aid in the classroom, and the school says, look, we just don't have the funding, we're getting cuts, we have to deal with all of these things, what power, what information can a parent have access to that's going to help their child the best?
Well, I think the important thing to note is oftentimes parents feel, okay, we've been told we have these rights, but then when we get to talking to someone at the school, we don't feel like we have the rights. And when it comes to something very specific, like a student needing an individual aid, it's basically the parent's place to prove and show that need. And if the parent is not bringing in a note from the doctor or painting the circumstances by which the child needs help, then the school oftentimes will say, well, your child doesn't qualify. So it's kind of like there are two answers for that question, and it all depends on the student's need. And we help parents understand how parents need to prove that need, either medically by having their doctors explain the circumstances of the child's need, or just to look at the law and say, this is your right, now you may engage in this discussion.
Access to assistive technology is a great equalizer in all classrooms.
Yes.
But they typically cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
Some of it does.
Some of it does.
Some of it does.
Some high-tech items cost a lot of money. Low-tech items, maybe not.
For some of these high-tech items that a student simply will not be able to have access to the curriculum, will not succeed with the instruction, what tools do parents have to ensure that their child has full access to the curriculum and instruction?
Well, the important thing is, and I went through this with my own child, who is now 24 and doing quite well, you have to know how to ask. And the way to ask for something isn't the way you might think it is. Like, for example, I think my child can use a computer, so why don't we get that? Actually, asking for any piece of equipment, you may get the answer, well, we don't have to because your child doesn't qualify. The truth is, every parent needs to know that they must ask for an assistive technology evaluation. From the result of that evaluation, they'll be told if their child qualifies or not. And the truth is, most of the time, children that are evaluated do qualify.
If a parent's child has been sent home from school,
yes,
for any number of issues, behavioral, what obligations do students have to follow the same rules as all of the other students who do not qualify or have been diagnosed with a behavioral problem?
Well, that's a good question because you do see some variance in different places. I think today schools are very quick to send kids home, to suspend or even expel. And that's because of zero-tolerance policies. Now, obviously, if a child brings drugs or a weapon or harms another student, they're going to be put out of school. But there are many times when the offenses are minor. And that child, perhaps because of their special need, should have a behavior plan, a behavior intervention plan in place. Now, that gives the school some obligations as well as the student. They must enforce that plan, and for example, if the school found there were certain triggers that sent a student off and led to behaviors many times, they could possibly look for other ways of dealing with that student and trying to prevent those triggers.
What is the process for something like that? Is there a determination of manifest with the behavior?
Very good. That's a very good word you bring up. Manifestation, determination. It's very important. Does the behavior have anything to do with the disability factor? And many times it does. And we need to do a manifestation determination to find that out. If the child truly knew they were committing an offense and there wasn't a plan in place to provide for that, then it's the school's right to either suspend or expel. But if a student is suspended or expelled and they do have a special education program, I would urge any parent to call us and see if we could possibly do some intervention to find out if their child does have a need that needs to be established with the school.
This sounds like a lot of information for any parent to absorb, and probably by the time their child is 18 to 21 years of age, they may just be getting the hang of this. Where can they go to learn more about this? Where are you located?
We are at 20 East Jackson on the 3rd floor, Family Resource Center on Disabilities. We've been there for a few decades, I believe. I've not been there that long. But like I say, every Saturday morning we have rights training from 10 to 1. And just call in, make an appointment, and we'll give you all the information you need for free. We are funded by the federal government to make parents aware of their rights as well as their students' rights. And also for professionals, we do give training to teachers as well as other professionals that work with students. And so we try to get everybody on the same page as far as understanding what possibly could be done to fix or correct a situation.
What is the website and phone number that people can reach at to find out more about these programs?
Well, our website is frcd.org, and our phone number is 312-939-3513.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Marks.
Thank you. Hi, this is Elliott Marks. I'm here at the Family Resource Center on Disabilities, and I'd like to introduce a parent that we gave some assistance to, and this is Shirley. Could you tell us a little about your experience with the school before you came to the Family Resource Center?
Well, the school, when my son entered, he entered in a Southside school in kindergarten, and he was very hyperactive. So as he entered the class, on him being registered, I did inform them that he was hyperactive, and I told the kindergarten teacher, what was the problem, but she didn't really acknowledge that. And so he got in there. He could perform the work, but he wasn't able to stay seated a lot. So therefore that, presented a problem. And things just escalated. I went to the counselor. I informed her. She said, okay, she had credentials that will help back that problem, but as he scored high on his scores, she didn't really address that situation. She put him in a gifted class, and that presented another problem because he was introduced in the middle part of the school, not at the beginning. So, alliances had formed with other children. They had friends, and he came in the middle part, so he wasn't well adjusted in the classroom, and that presented a problem because they would be like, why are you here? And persons that's hyperactive, they need to have a structured situation, so the Family Resource Center came in when I contacted them, and I told them the problem because it had really escalated really bad then. Threats were made towards me that if I didn't put him on medication, he would be taken from me. The police, they told me they was going to call the police on me. They, just said a lot of things that he was doing, things that really wasn't the case because it wasn't documented. They said he assaulted security guards. He did this to teachers. But the problem was he was really being assaulted. His head got busted at 6 years old. He had to have stitches. But the Family Resource Center as an organization came in and assisted me and gave me the structure that I needed to present to the school so they could accommodate him the way that he really needed to be accommodated.
Did you attend the Family Resource Center's rights training?
Yes, I did. I attended the training, which equipped me to better able to handle things. It taught me about letter writing, to address it, make sure you send a letter and get what is it, the confirmation thing to secure, that they did receive it. I had to do that in 2 different schools to make sure that his needs were met. Also, for the IEP means I was better able to address them, instead of feeling so intimidated. I felt at ease, even though I still needed assistance, from other persons in Family Resource Center.
So you found that the attitude of the school was different once you had the information that FRCD provided?
Well, at the first school, no, that attitude did never really change because that counselor, whatever was the problem, she just never really adjusted herself. Even though she told me she had the things to assist me, she tried to at one time, but it still seemed like she was still creating problems. At the other school, I found out somewhat that their attitude did change somewhat, but they still wasn't very accommodating because when I requested his records, what they did was just print over some of his records and just made a number of 10 copies for one thing. And I'm like, this is not all of his records.
So you found when you were able to fix one problem, another problem would present itself.
Exactly.
And then you have to come back and have some new assistance for that issue.
Exactly.
And how are things going right now?
Well, things are going pretty well, but now he's attending college, and I told him I think we're going to have to come back because he has adjusted somewhat, but he's still, because his nervous system, he can't sit for a very long time. So I told him you might have to get some accommodations since you're in college. Even though they're an adult, they can get up and they don't have to tell people where they're going, but he still needs that focus, though.
But that is definitely a success story because not many parents really are able to help their children move from a special education environment to a college environment. So you should be very proud.
Well, I thank you. I still think that it's still work in process.
My name is Julie Ann Chavez, and I am the project coordinator for Make Medicare Work. What I do is I provide information and referrals regarding Medicare and Medicaid. I also assist people with their Medicare and Medicaid issues, as well as Social Security disability income and social supplemental income. I have been the leader for Senate Bill 2516, which is an amendment of the legislation to mandate insurance companies to provide insurance coverage for hearing aids with no age restriction. We have an uphill battle against the insurance industry. What I'm asking for everyone to do is to join our Facebook cause, which is www.causes.com/hearing aids with the letter S. The purpose of joining the cause page is to get the latest information on the status of Senate Bill 2516. In regards to Senate Bill 2516, with our battle against insurance industry, they call these things cosmetic. There's nothing beautiful about it. Hearing loss is not a beautiful thing. Hearing aids require a prescription in order to be fitted with the hearing aid, just like cochlear implants would be the same way. Insurance industry feels that hearing aids are not a medical necessity. We need to tell them that it is. There are reasons for people to have hearing loss. It could be a genetic reason, an illness that has taken place, playing extreme loud music that have caused damage to the nerves. Diabetes is also known to cause hearing loss, and yet the insurance industry still feels that hearing aids are not a medical necessity. Majority of the insurance companies will pay for a cochlear implant, but they will not pay for a hearing aid. Both require prescription. There are individuals that I know that wear both a cochlear implant and a hearing aid. When asked about insurance coverage for both, their cochlear implants were paid for by insurance, but they had to find money to pay for their hearing aid. How sad is that? You need to let your senators know that hearing aids require a prescription, and it is a medical necessity, not a cosmetic device, and tell them that hearing loss is not a beautiful thing. Everybody needs to take part in calling their senators and asking them to sponsor Senate Bill 2516. If you are one that has hearing aids but your insurance will not cover, or if you know of a loved one who has hearing aids and their insurance will not cover, they like to hear personal stories. So please call your senator and tell them how important Senate Bill 2516 is to you. You can find your senators on the website by going to www.ilga.gov. And you click on Senate members, and you can find your senators on the list of members that are stated on that page. If you are not sure how to approach the phone call and you need assistance or guidance, please feel free to give me a call at 630-324-0281, and I'm more than happy to help you out. Thank you.
I want to ask people who view this blog or view this video to submit their stories about fighting state budget cuts that affect people with disabilities in all 50 states who need home and community-based services in order to be able to live the lives that you choose. Yeah, what we need you to do is send in short video clips or YouTube links and short stories about why you think state funding is so important for the home services that you receive. And if you can email those to defendingourfreedom@gmail.com, then we can put them on the blog and show elected officials and bureaucrats the real faces of real people who are fighting for the right to live in their community.
In this state, across the country, there is a lack of money coming in to pay for services. So, a way that they say it is the revenues are down. So a lot of state programs are being cut so that there's a balanced budget within the state. What happens is that these balanced budgets come from eliminating the services that people with disabilities need for their daily life. And we want to defend the freedom of people with disabilities because we feel like we're being attacked. If we don't have these services, our livelihood ends. Our ability to freely choose where we want to go will end. And when we saw this here in Illinois, coming from the state legislature, we also saw people in New York being served with deep cuts in their programs for people with disabilities, as well as in Virginia, California, Texas. There was definitely a pattern going on of folks with disabilities being under the gun, being attacked, being assaulted by state legislature so that they can have a balanced budget. And we wanted to stop that on the federal level. So we came up with a campaign in Denver amongst other disability rights activists to defend our freedom to be human beings that want to live in the community.
When advocates go to visit the elected officials and state agency heads to say, hey, we need to stop cutting services for people with disabilities, what we need to be able to do is show on the web, the story of our struggle all throughout this year for the funding that we need for next year and beyond. And so when you go to your visits, what you can do is you can give your elected officials or whoever the link to the Defending Our Freedom blog and say, you know what, you can go to this website and you can see how people are struggling in Virginia, Pennsylvania, Nevada, Florida, all across the United States, and show them that it's not just about this one state, it's about the entire country fighting for the right to live in the community and be free from the institutional bias in Medicaid.
The blog is a part of our media committee's campaign to get people's personal stories to be vocalized, as well as demonstrate to those officials that say that will show us who's actually affected by these service cuts, that there are real people that are being affected. We also want to show that people with disabilities are not going to be passively laying down and letting this kind of thing happen. It's a violation of people's civil rights, and we are defending that right, our civil rights. And so this kind of blog where people can write about what's currently happening in their state, what are they doing about it, I think is a way for us to protest against these really violent acts by our government.
Shame in your head. Let other people take control. Closed captioning made possible by support from the Costa C Foundation.